what happened to the U-28 and the UB-85, and why is it that they have such similar and peculiar stories? Could the possibility of creatures that we don't know exist be laying in our oceans? And could these creatures be attacking or have attacked ships in the past? Or could these just be mere excuses for sea captains who horribly messed up on the job? Welcome to Peculiar Occurrences. I am your host, Lilith Nova. The U-28 creature is not the name of a specific type of creature or monster, but yet a specific sighting. The beast itself is yet to be identified. This chance encounter with the creature that would later be known as the U-28 creature was a chance meeting that happened in the early part of World War I. After military engagement with the U-28 and a British steamboat. The captain of the U-boat, Commander Freer George G. von Foster, described the encounter in the following passage taken from his logbook. On July 30th, 1915, our U-28 torpedoed a British steamer known as the Iberian, which was carrying a rich cargo across the North Atlantic. The steamer sunk so quickly that the bow of the ship stuck up into the air, almost completely vertically. Moments later, the hull of the Iberian disappeared. The wreckage remained beneath the water for approximately 25 seconds, at a depth that was clearly impossible to assess, when suddenly there was a violent explosion. That shot up debris all in the air, and among it, a giant aquatic animal. Out of the water to approximately 80 feet in the air. Then he's quoted saying that at that moment he had 6 of his officers, including his chief engineer, his navigator, and his helmsman. Simultaneously, they were all drawn to look at this marvel coming out of the water. And they watched as it struggled among the debris. They were unable to identify the creature, though they all agreed that it looked like some sort of aquatic crocodile that was about 60 feet long and had 4 limbs that had webbed feet and a long snout that tapered off at the end. Tapered off into a point, that is. And they claimed that unfortunately they were not able to take a photograph because it sank back into the water and out of sight within 10 to 15 seconds. End quote. One thing to note here is the manner in which the captain recorded the note, the encounter. In general, submarine captains are not known for exaggerating. And as well, in this case, it was a successful mission. It wasn't an unsuccessful mission where it was their boats being sank. So therefore there would be absolutely no reason to make this up. And as a matter of fact, this could even damage his reputation as a notable sea captain in the military, as people that often reported these sightings were ridiculed and seen as crazy. Some people believe that this could be evidence of a surviving prehistoric crocodile. There are at least 2 kinds that are known to have resembled modern-day crocodiles. So it is very possible, since these creatures did once exist. As well, the fossils of these sorts of animals let scientists know that their spinal cords were actually very flexible, which would account for the serpent-like movements that many captains have reported, including the serpent-like movements that were reported in this case, of it dashing back underwater. And there have been a few creatures and other sea monsters, sea creatures, serpents, reported like this in this very area of the world. There's also a handful of people that suggested that this creature may have been being transported by the steamer, only to be released into the ocean when the steamer exploded. This small number of investigators have stated that any creatures like that were swimming in the ocean would be very likely to stay away from a sea battle. That gunfire and things of that nature should have sent it into a fight or flight mode, and it was more likely that a creature such as this would choose the flight. Another reason to think that it could have been carried in the hull is because this creature would have had to have been swimming right over top of the ship within seconds after it went down in order to be blown out of the water when it exploded. Though it is very unclear why the British would be transporting a 60-foot aquatic creature over the Atlantic Ocean. Though there are also studies coming out about crocodiles that do swim long distances through the sea. Though these crocodiles are usually in the 30-foot range, not the 60-foot range, as was reported about the captain and the crew. Could the captain and the crew have been exaggerating the size just a little bit, since the creature was only seen for a few moments and from some distance away? It is safe to say that at this point in time, the U-28 creature mystery may never be solved, especially since the U-28 is damaged and long out of use. The Iberian is at the bottom of the ocean, and all witnesses that had seen it are now dead. Though there have been similar peculiar occurrences. On April 30th, 1918, the UB-85, a German submarine, and a very feared U-boat. For the previous 2 weeks, the UB-85 had been patrolling the Irish Sea, looking to unleash its 10 torpedoes on merchant ships that were bringing vital supplies to the British from the US and Brazil. And much to the frustration of Commander Crench, the UB-85 had not had much luck. Although U-boats had sunk 280,000 tons of Allied ships that month, not a single one had been dispatched by Crench. Accompanied by a few officers, Commander Crench stood in the conning tower with binoculars, scanning the waters for oncoming ships, when suddenly the UB-85 was rocked by water on its starboard side, followed by a horrendous thud as something landed on its deck. Crench looked down and to his bewilderment saw a huge sea monster climbing up the side of the ship, getting onto the deck. And this beast had large eyes set in a horny sort of skull. Crench was reported to have said that it had a small head but teeth that glistened in the moonlight. And every man on watch that night started firing their firearms at the creature. But the creature had hold of the forward gun mount and refused to let go. And the weight of the monster was so much that it was forcing the 730-pound submarine back down into the water with the hatch still open. There was a very real risk that this U-boat would sink. Crench therefore ordered his crew to keep firing. And eventually, once the creature had sustained one too many bullets, it let go of the now mangled gun mount and slipped back into the water. The creature was now gone, but had severely damaged the ship, leaving it incapable of going anywhere or sinking back under the water. In other words, they were sitting ducks for their enemies. And as day broke, one of the British ships did eventually spot them and cautiously approached the damaged ship. And much to the surprise of the British crew, the Germans were actually standing on deck, hands up, ready to surrender without a fight. It was only once all of the Germans were on board and Crench told his tale to the British that it became clear why they were all too happy to see the British crew take them and why they went with no fight. The Royal Navy sunk the UB-85. This was a story that was given by Commander Crench during interrogation by the British, though experts believe that the submarine simply took on water and was unable to sink back to the bottom and therefore was stuck floating atop the top of the water. Engineers working on an electricity cable, the Western HDVC link, discovered the almost completely intact wreck of a UB-3 submarine that's believed to either be the UB-85 or the UB-82, just lying off of the Galloway coast in October of 2016. Dr. Innes McCartney, who identified the wreck, said, "We are certainly closer to solving the mystery of the UB-85. And the reason behind its sinking, whether it be a regular mechanical malfunction or something a little strange, peculiar to explain. So perhaps we may have some clues to this one soon." Also, something else that should be noted here is where the sinking of the UB-85 took place is very near to the home of the Loch Ness Monster. And a lot of sea monster, serpent, crocodile type sightings has happened in this area. So what do you think about this peculiar occurrence? Do you believe there could be some sort of sea crocodile, sea serpent, sea maybe krakens? That's certainly to me what the second one sounded like, the way it wrapped around the gun. It sounded more like a giant octopus or kraken to me. Do you believe there could be animals like this still living in the sea, or even prehistoric animals still living in the sea? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to check my description box for your peculiar occurrence gear. As well, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this sort of content, and don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that bell if you're new here, or you won't even know when I upload, and you want to see it. Come watch my stuff. I want to hang out with you. Hey, yeah, and I want to hang out with you, so come hang out with me in between all this, that is, on Twitter or Facebook or other social medias. I'd love to get to know you. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Oh yeah, and as well, if you want to catch these episodes early, join me on Patreon. Come be one of my supernovas.
Are you listening? Damn.